Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about the movies that I have been watching for the month of March, or at least maybe the last half of March. So these are some recommendations and also some of my queue, the queue that I've been watching. As you all are probably aware, or at least people who have seen my past video, though like literally the last one, I actually picked up like 38 titles, so I picked up a lot. I've been picking up a little bit more than usual. And that means like, okay, well, I need to start watching these movies, right? I still haven't seen as much of the things that I've just recently picked up. I'm still kind of backlogged on what I'm watching, but also at the same time, like your mood sets to whatever you want to watch. And so I definitely go towards newer films each time that I want to watch something, because I have quite a bit backed up. But yeah, so that you'll see a lot of that reflected by the movies that I talk about today. But also another thing that I want to say is stick around for the end of the video. I did a giveaway at the end of last video, and I have the giveaway winners. I actually have a list of it, and I'm going to do a random number generator, and I'm going to send 2 movies that I have to give away, and I'm going to send those out to you. So stick around for the end of the video. But first, let's jump into my movie recommendations, the movies that I've been watching for the month of March. I guess it's April now. Happy April Fool's Day. I think that's when I'm going to be putting this up. And yeah, happy April Fool's Day, you fools. So let's jump into the films that I watched. But before I do that, let me know in the comment section down below, what have you been watching for the month of March? If you've been on any kind of genre kick, you'll see with my choices, I've been like kind of sticking to a director, or like I'm sticking with like kind of a theme of stuff that I want to watch. I want to know. Tell me down in the comment section down below. So let's jump off right into some documentaries. All right, so many of you actually know that I've been kind of tackling this for the last year, and I finally finished them all. And I actually talked about it not that long ago, but I was able to finish the ESPN 30 for 30 Season 1, right? This is the first season. Season 2 is right over there. And there's like Season 3, I think, and 4. I think they're on Hulu, if I'm not incorrect about it. But the thing is, I've really enjoyed these things. And these are a lot of really great documentaries. And I was celebrating kind of ESPN's anniversary. And different filmmakers about different sports and different subjects, athletes that are involved with different things like scandals, like life stories, lots of crazy things. And I really, really started falling in love with this stuff, as many of you know, because of The Last Dance, which is another ESPN 30 for 30. I suppose it was like a mini series. It's like a 10 episode thing, and it's right up there. You can't see it right now off camera, but it really got my interest in sports, and a lot of you know this. But yeah, I don't really talk about sports that much, but I do find sports like films and documentaries really, really fascinating, and I hope you do too. Like I said, if you don't have this particular Blu-ray, you can like look it up. I don't think it's too expensive, but otherwise you can look it up on streaming services because it's there as well. And it's really cool that those are available, and there's so much like variety to those. Like even if you're not interested in sports, like the stories are still pretty incredible. So anyway, yeah, ESPN 30 for 30. I finally finished it. I had a few left. Once Brothers, which I really, really loved. That was one of my favorite basketball documentaries. Tim Richmond, To the Limit, Fernando Nation, Marion Jones, Press Pause, The Best That Never Was, and Pony Express. So like, a lot of different sports are tackled here, and a lot of different athletes are tackled here. But yeah, this was the first season, and I finally finished it. I can move on to the second season now, enjoy myself from there. So next, actually, I'll talk about something that I've been watching, because I have been watching a little bit more on the TV side of things. I've been able to watch the first few episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I recently just finished a TV series with Vikings, right? And so actually I wanted to kind of move on to another show, or at least watch a few episodes here or there in between my movies. And what I actually started watching was Ash vs. the Evil Dead. It's Ash vs. Evil Dead. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I've always enjoyed the Evil Dead series and Army of Darkness, and even like that reboot for Evil Dead. I thought it was a lot of fun too, a lot darker. But something about this, Sam Raimi, and we got Ash right there. It's just such a fun show. It's just really crazy and over the top. It's, you know, the 30-minute episodes. I just finished the first 2 seasons. There's 3 seasons in total. So I have one more season to go for this. And so I might talk about it a little bit later, but this show is just really crazy. Buckets and buckets of blood, lots of really crazy things. And so if you are into horror, definitely watch this. I believe it might be on Shudder. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, it's such a fun show. Yeah, so check it out if you haven't. Ash vs. Evil Dead. I believe when I picked this up, it was relatively cheap. I think I spent like $20 on the whole entire series. But yeah, it's been fun. So let's actually talk now about some films. All right, so the first film that I watched is from 1978. It's directed by Hal Ashby, which I've only seen a few of his films, like Harold and Maude, for instance, and I have seen half of Being There, so I haven't seen all of it. But I'm talking about Coming Home right here. We have Jane Fonda, Jon Voight, Bruce Dern. Those are like our main characters within this film. Man, this movie was really powerful and really emotional at that. And so it's definitely about, because like I said, it's 1978, so this is about a decade after the Vietnam conflict, or at least, you know, not that long after. And so it's kind of centered around that, and it's centered around Jane Fonda's character, who loves both these men, Jon Voight and Bruce Dern. Bruce Dern just like, you know, got engaged, and I believe was set to get married to Jane Fonda, but he went off to fight in the conflict, and then she runs into this, you know, this guy in Jon Voight's character, who is like shell-shocked and like he just got back from the war, and like just, you know, kind of went a little nuts, and you know, Jane Fonda and him like start falling in love with each other, and then Bruce Dern comes back. It's really complicated, but it's really, really great, and it definitely reminds me, in a sense, of the time period that it was like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest would come out in, and it also has this weird, peculiar comedic aspect to it, because that's what Hal Ashby, I've noticed, likes to incorporate into his films a little bit, that dark humor that exists in it. But it's also a very serious movie about the struggles of, you know, keeping relationships fresh, and also to like make sure you can maintain those things, and then also at the same time kind of look at like the horrors of war, and also like the stress and like depression that happens and kind of comes along with it. So it's a great movie. And I guess it won 3 Oscars: Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay. But yeah, this is actually a lot of, I wouldn't say fun, but it's definitely a compelling film, and certainly worth your time. It's out on Kino Lorber, and so I've had this on my shelf for a while, and I'm excited, and I'm happy that I was able to watch it. Now we're going to move on to a fun 90s vampire film. All right, so now we're going to move on to a film from 1992, the year of my birth, by John Landis, you know, the director of American Werewolf in London. He next would do something similar. This wasn't next, because obviously American Werewolf in London was, you know, like a decade before. But he tackled vampires and did Innocent Blood right here. And Innocent Blood, man, I didn't really know what to expect. I definitely picked this up alongside The Hunger a few like sales ago from Warner Archive, because this is from the Warner Archive collection. And so I was able to pick this one up, and I've had it on my queue for a while. And yeah, this was like a weird combination of like a mafia film with like a gothic vibe to it, because there's vampires involved. So there's that, and there's a lot of comedic things too, because if you know John Landis, he'll put in some comedy in there, and like put all this genre mashup, and it's a lot of fun, to be honest. And that's the thing that I liked about it. It almost felt like a buddy cop film with, like, you know, a female lead. Innocent Blood is starring Anne Padillot. I probably said that name incorrectly. I tried listening for the pronunciation, but it's hard to say it off the tongue. And it also has Robert Loggia in it as well. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, honestly, and pretty wild too. Like it's all in the eyes. I don't know if you can see based on that cover, but the eyes kind of like shift in color. This one kind of does it just because it's like crimson right here, crimson like blood red. But like the different colors that kind of come out of her eyes when she's transforming, or like kind of getting into this vampiric mode, it's a lot different from like what it is. I thought the effects were pretty cool. A little cheesy, but at the same time, it's the 90s, and so that's what you kind of get from it. But yeah, I really enjoyed Innocent Blood, and have any of you seen it? I want to know down in the comment section down below. Now we're going to move on to a sweet of Scream Factory films that I watched. I like binged all these films, and I'm excited that I did. All right, so the first film is one that I'm just gonna, it kind of just relates to Innocent Blood in the sense that it's a vampire film. But however, it's a film that I didn't really particularly care for as much as I thought I would. I definitely have heard from a lot of people that there's like some mixed things about this film. But yeah, when I watched it, you know, I had a good fun time, but at the same time where it's like, well, will I revisit this movie again? I don't really know. And it's 1998's John Carpenter's Vampires right here. And yeah, this is about vampire hunters, and it's led, you know, of course, by Jack Crow, who is James Woods, and his mercenary team, and they are hunting, you know, vampires. And at the very beginning, there's like, you know, they find this old house in the middle of kind of nowhere, and then they kind of start dragging all the vampires to, like, it's a nest, and they're dragging them out into the sunlight. And then, like, almost the very next scene, they're all partying. And then you have the vampire master who survives and like kind of takes revenge on all of the mercenaries and people who are on James Woods' vampire hunting team. Then kind of things get personal and get a little weird. But I honestly think it's a very interesting vampire film. I really do like vampire films, but this one felt a little misogynistic, if you will, and definitely one of the main characters in this movie, who I did not like, Daniel Baldwin. I do not like how he acted, and it kind of weirdly, he got away with a lot of things that I thought was really strange. But yeah, Cheryl Lee's in this movie as well. It's a fine film. If I'm going to watch a John Carpenter, it's probably not going to be this movie. So you may or may not see this movie in a next like giveaway video sometime in the near future. But yeah, how many of you have seen Vampires? I'm actually kind of curious to know what you think of it down in the comment section down below. Next film that I watched is another John Carpenter film. This one has Karen Allen and Jeff Bridges in it, and it is Starman from 1984. Another John Carpenter film that I actually did enjoy, about an alien who like crash landed on Earth, took the form of a dead husband. That's Jeff Bridges. Where Karen Allen's character is kind of going through this grieving process, and then she kind of is, I guess, taken hostage by the alien and kind of falls in love with him as the government is trying to hunt him down. It's a pretty simple premise, but yeah, it's actually a lot of fun, and the special effects are pretty wacky. And yeah, it's weird because like the first scene reminds me a lot of like The Thing that John Carpenter would do a couple years earlier. But yeah, I really like Jeff Bridges. In fact, there's one scene in particular where they're making love, and obviously Jeff Bridges is not a human, so he doesn't really know what to do, and it's just the funniest thing. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But watch Starman. It's a really fun movie. This is another Scream Factory release. I had a really good time with that one. Next, we're going to move on to... I'm going to go in between my John Carpenter picks. Actually, no. I'm going to go on my John Carpenter picks. So I'll go next to one of his first films. And this one is from 1976. It is Assault on Precinct 13. I was able to finally watch this one. This movie is a fun shoot 'em out movie, and like holy fucking shit, there's so much shooting going on in this movie. It was just this gang that sees the death of some of their comrades, and then they want to take revenge on the police, who are definitely overstepping the boundaries. And then they like kind of just shut in this police station, and this police station has to survive and get out of this situation. And they cut off all like the contact and like pretty much kill almost everybody in the film. But yeah, this is a really fun film. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this movie, and this is the first time I've ever seen it, and I actually had a really good time with it. And definitely want to watch it again. And I definitely want to watch the special features. There's a lot of really cool special features involving John Carpenter. But yeah, this is a really fun film with like Western elements, I suppose, and then also you know, that cool thriller elements that you'll get, maybe some horror, I guess, related things, horror in real life, if you will. But I really enjoyed this movie, and I think it's definitely one of the better John Carpenter films that I've seen. But how many of you have seen Assault on Precinct 13? Now we're going to move on to a film that I've seen many, many times. And you know I just picked this up recently because I wanted this version of this film, and I was able to rewatch it, and I was actually able to watch all the special edition features from it as well. So this is my favorite film from John Carpenter from 1982. I have The Thing right here. This is from Arrow Video right here. I don't have the limited edition. I really want that if anyone knows where to get it. But yeah, this has so many special features on it, and honestly, I was actually pretty surprised by how much they jam-packed on this disc. It's like almost like 8 hours of things, because like almost every special feature thing that is involved with this disc is like an hour long. And then on top of the film itself, right, which is it's almost 2 hours long. And so, yeah, this was just a fantastic release. And I know somebody asked me to compare the differences between the Scream Factory Edition version and the Arrow version. I'm sure you can look this up yourself as well, but with the Scream Factory Edition right here, we have a 2K scan supervised by the director of photography, Dean Cundy. This one has a 4K restoration from the original negative, supervised and approved by director John Carpenter and director of photography Dean Cundy. So, you know, there's those. New audio commentary from Dean Cundy on this side. Audio commentary from Mark White, Patrick Bromley from F This Movie, El Goro, and John Carpenter and actor Kurt Russell. So there's 2 commentaries on this one. Another commentary from Kurt Russell and John Carpenter. It might be the same thing on this one. Theatrical teasers and trailers, TV spots, radio spots. These are on both of these discs. On disc 2 of the Scream Factory Edition, new interviews with cast and crew. John Carpenter's The Thing, Terror Takes Shape, a documentary featuring interviews with John Carpenter, Kurt Russell, plus members of the cast and crew. It's also on this one as well. Then we have The Making of the Thing from 1982. Then we have outtakes, the broadcast version of The Thing, vintage featurettes, production reel, behind the scenes footage, and things like that. Whereas this one has, in addition to the things I just mentioned, it also has Who Goes There in Search of the Thing, an all-new documentary produced by Ballyhoo Motion Pictures, exploring the history of The Thing from the original novella to John Carpenter's terrifying science fiction classic, and new interviews with the cast and crew. 1982, which I really love, this particular special featurette, One Amazing Summer, an all-new retrospective documentary that is produced by Ballyhoo about the unforgettable films from the summer of 1982, you know, E.T. and the like. John Carpenter's The Thing, Terror Takes Shape, both of these. It also has a Nothing Left Unsaid, the 35th anniversary panel featuring the 2017 Texas Frightmare Weekend, featuring director of photography Dean Cundy and actors Thomas Waits, Keith David, and Wilford Brimley. And then The Thing, 27,000 Hours, short film made by Sean Hogan. It's like a 7-minute film. It's really fun. And then, yeah, so honestly, I really like the Arrow version, and the Scream Factory Edition definitely has a lot of good things too, but obviously this is Region B, this is Region A. I like this film so much that I want to own both. And so I'm not, you know, gonna get rid of this one just because I have this one. But I'm happy that I was able to watch the film once again, and I'm sure many of you are also happy that you were able to see this movie. If you haven't, seriously, do yourself a favor, turn this video off, go watch the movie, because this is like going to be the best movie that I'm going to be talking about in this list today. So yeah, those are the John Carpenter films that I watched. Next is another Scream Factory film that I watched. This is a remake, which I haven't seen the original, so don't ask me how much the comparison that I know. But from 1999, we have House on Haunted Hill. And actually, this has Jeffrey Rush in it. It has a bunch of other actor and actresses that I recognize, but I haven't seen in a lot of things. It does have Peter Gallagher in it, Taye Diggs, Ellie Larder, Bridget Wilson, and Chris Kattan in it as well. I think Bridget Wilson I've seen in like Mortal Kombat, if I remember that correctly. But yeah, this movie, very 90s. Obviously, it's 1999. It definitely feels that way. There's a lot of really crazy horror sequences in it. Very trippy. It almost reminds me, there's some trippy elements that like maybe a film like Session 9 would take a lot of its inspiration from a little bit later on. But yeah, House on Haunted Hill, this is a fun remake of, you know, like these people are offered $1 million to stay in this haunted house, and, you know, one by one, something's going on with it. And also, like, the end, there's like some special effects that definitely are like pretty freaking wild in this movie. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think it's an interesting movie. It's definitely a fun movie that I would have liked to watch with other people. I think that's where I would have a better time with this movie. But how many of you have seen this movie? How many of you have seen the original with Vincent Price? I want to see that one. I'm going to see it someday soon. But yeah, those are my Scream Factory films that I watched. Now we're going to move on to a rom-com. All right, so we're completely switching gears. We're actually going to talk about a film from 2012 that I've actually had on my queue for a while, and I've actually been watching not just horror films. I've been watching some films that I just don't really want to think too much, just because life's been very stressful lately. And one of the films that I wanted to watch, because I love the people involved in this movie, is Celeste and Jesse Forever, and that has Andy Samberg right there, Rashida Jones, who's our main characters. That's Celeste and Jesse, and then we also have like Elijah Wood and Emma Roberts are also involved in this movie. It's a really great movie. I actually had a really fun time with it. It's also really hard to watch because it's about two best friends who are married, were married, and they're separating, and they're still hanging out together, and it's really weird. All their friends are like, why are you still like hanging out together? It's like just really strange. And it just kind of intersects with their lives and like people that they meet, and yeah, it's a weird combination of rom-com and drama, and you get all those elements involved with it in a really nice package. And I actually think it's really funny. There's a lot of funny parts of it, and it's outside the typical Andy Samberg kind of comedy that you would get from him. And I think I watched a special featurette after I watched the movie, and he was stating that this is very outside my element of what you'd expect me to see in. So this is from Sony Pictures Classic. I really like this movie, and I think you should watch it too if you like those things. But yeah, Celeste and Jesse Forever, a really great time, and I highly recommend it. All right, so sticking with Sony Pictures Classic, which is, I think, a studio that really isn't talked about much, which I think should be talked about more, is a film that I've actually had on my list, or actually on my queue for a few years, and I've been wanting to watch it for the longest time. And I finally watched it. I had no idea what to expect. And it's directed by Damien Cifron. I hope I said his name correctly. But it's written, or the producers are Pedro and Agustin Almodovar. And I know some of their works, but I'm talking about Wild Tales. And this is a 2014 revenge anthology. There's like 6 tales in here that are just so outlandish, and it's just like kind of people at each other's throats at the last end of their string, and like something happens in the film itself, or like these little mini episodes in their life, and then they just fucking lose it, and then they just kind of go revenge style on a lot of these things, and it's so much fun. But yeah, I had such a good time with this film, and it's surprising me that a lot of people don't know about it, and a lot of people maybe haven't talked about it. I don't know. The reason I definitely had this on my list for so long is, one, I liked it because it's Sony Pictures Classic, and they haven't really steered me wrong on any films that I've enjoyed. But I remember years and years ago when I used to look at like the IMDb like top 1,000 movies of all time. This one would pop up all the time. And I finally got it, like I said, years ago, and I finally watched it, and I was very pleasantly surprised. It's such a fun film. It's a Spanish language film, and it's just really crazy, from 2014. And it actually was a nominee for Best Foreign Language Film for that year. And so, yeah. Wild Tales, check it out if you haven't seen it. Next, we're going to move on to a film from 1980, another film that I actually have had on my shelf for far too long that I still hadn't seen. It's directed by Brian De Palma, and it is Dressed to Kill. It's got Michael Caine in it, Nancy Allen, Angie Dickinson in it, and wow. I kind of predicted this film, or at least fairly early on, what was going to happen, and kind of guess what was going to happen. And so there is that, but there's this voyeuristic thing about Brian De Palma that I think is very interesting. So obviously Blowout came out, I think, a few years after this film, which is like the film that I really like by De Palma. I've also seen Carrie, which came out before this one. And he definitely has a certain style to him, and I'm really fascinated by that. All right, my camera cut out, but I was going to say I'm really interested in Brian De Palma's style and his take on things. And so I think this is a very interesting piece of work from 1980. I think it definitely has some social commentary to it. and the fact that the year that this came out in, and all the things that kind of surround it. But anyway, how many of you have seen Dressed to Kill? I'm actually kind of curious in the comment section down below. How many of you have seen it? Next, we're going to move on to another film. I actually did watch a movie that I picked up from the last video, because there was a nice Sunday morning that I'm like, okay, I want to watch this. And I was able to watch this Randolph Scott film, directed by Bodeker, and that is The Tall T. It's the first film that they did together. This one's from 1957, and this is from Indicator Powerhouse Films right here. This is all region, so you can get it if you want it. But yeah, I was able to pick this one up. This was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed this kind of tale from Randolph Scott, who just was kind of, you know, hitchhiking and then kind of got trapped in a situation with these bandits. And yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the visuals were really powerful, especially for a B Western, if you would get that. And yeah, I just really am enjoying just watching these Westerns in the mornings on Sundays, and kind of just enjoying like kind of that classic tale, because this is like from '57, so that was like a transition year, and like those transition times between like those less gritty Westerns into, you know, the spaghetti Westerns of the 60s. And like, you know, they were tackling some things that, like, not all the heroes have to be like, you know, super pretty or like gung-ho about things. And I think it's interesting. It adds character and adds depth to the heroes and the villains. Even the villains in this film, you have a little bit of sympathy for them, and I actually really enjoyed that. And it definitely kind of reflects on like the whole the nature of like the people who are involved in this movie. And so yeah, The Tall T, how many of you have seen it? I'm curious to know down in the comment section down below. We're moving on from there to another rom-com, and then another film that's really hard to watch. And I remember looking at this, and like I think I got it for like $3 or $4, and I saw the cast and I'm like, I gotta watch this movie. And this is Where I Leave You right here. So the cast right here: Jason Bateman, we have Tina Fey, we also have Amy. We also have Adam Driver, Rose Byrne, Corey Stoll, Catherine Hahn, and Jane Fonda, among a lot of people in this film. It's about a dysfunctional family with like their dad passes away. Jane Fonda is the mother, who is like a really famous psychiatrist who talked a lot about their sex life, you know, and like their developmental years. And I guess they're like the kids growing up are like a little scarred from that, and they're all coming together to really kind of just spend time with each other. And in that Jewish tradition that I'm blanking on the name, and they're just trying to spend time together and like really kind of understand each other and the relationships that they're all involved in, like with their own relationships, and like how it's kind of structured a lot of things in their lives. And it's sad, but it's also really comedic, and it's really great to just kind of see all these characters just have fun with each other. And that's something that like I just definitely put on one night and like relax watching this movie. And yeah, this is Where I Leave You. This is a really great film, and I would recommend it just as much as I would recommend Celeste and Jesse Forever. These are films that, like, yes, there are some hard relationship elements to it, but at the same time, there's a lot of comedic elements that would like balance it out, and just it makes you feel things, and I like that about it. And the last film that I watched is something that I actually finished this morning, and I wanted to watch this movie because I was recently able to pick up a few things from the Arrow Easter sale, the Arrow Carnage sale, and I definitely wanted to watch some of my Arrows before I can fill the shelf back up. And this has been on my shelf for a little bit, but I also have seen some of this director's work. He directed so many films. Takashi Miike, and I'm talking about Audition, which is one of his most famous films from 1999. I was able to watch that this morning and finish it, and wow, what a crazy movie. And I love that you don't really know what was real and like wasn't real in this film. And there's just a lot of crazy moments that definitely remind me of like a lot of the new wave Korean cinema that would happen later on, but it also reminds me of the Japanese cinema of the time, whereas like a lot of these movies were like almost made like for direct video release, and also just kind of plays with you know, the, I guess, technology, but also with the things going on with Japan at the time, and then also like pressing the button of what is acceptable in the society within the context of the films, and like what you can see, what you can't see. That's what it kind of shows you with this film. But I really loved it. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to revisit it, probably with friends. It's definitely an uncomfortable watch, for sure. But Audition, I was able to finally watch it, and yeah, and I don't know if any of you have picked it up for the sale, but I would certainly do so. But yeah, those are the films that I picked up. Well, I didn't pick up. I watched for the month of March. But what have you been watching? I'm kind of curious down in the comment section down below. So let's move on from here to the giveaway, and I have that list right here. All right, so I have the list of everybody here. I got 23 names, and so I have this random number generator, 1 through 23. Each of you have picked a film from this stack right here that I'll be giving away. The rest of the films that aren't chosen here, I'm going to be giving away to my local library. But like, we're gonna give away 2 of them, and so let's do it. Yeah, let's just do this thing. All right, so number 16 on my phone is Mark's movie menu. So Mark's movie menu, you have The Interview right here. The Interview, the funny and infamous film that almost got immediately banned when it was released. I remember like theaters weren't able to show it because they didn't want to piss off North Korea. But yeah, Mark's movie menu. Please contact me via Twitter or Instagram. Down in the description down below, you can follow me there and reach out to me, and I will able to send this off to you. All right, so that's the first film that I'm giving away. And then the second is number 22. So Armand the Vampire. Armand the Vampire, you are picking up Dark and the Wicked right here. So I'm giving away The Dark and the Wicked, and Armand the Vampire, same directions. Follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. Just message me there, and I will be able to send this out to you. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who puts their name in these things. I have a really good time sending these out to all of you. I think it's a good way to discuss movies within the community, and also a way that I can give back to the community. So I want to say thank you, everyone, for each and every time that we do this. But yeah, thank you all for participating, and we're going to be doing it very soon in the next haul video that I'm going to be doing. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Give it a like, comment down below, share, hit the notification bell, and I will see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.